Welcome back to Pewdiepie. I'm Zui and I hope you enjoyed today's video. But before we get right into it, I'm obligated to remind you to click either the like or dislike button, commenting something down below, and of course sharing the video so more people can see and enjoy it. This is very important as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. I want you to know that your help is greatly appreciated. If you have any suggestions or ideas for a story, my Discord link is in my link tree that is down in the description, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi for any donations you may want to send my way. Every cent counts. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. When Brian was first confronted with the burning pizza plex, the day shift guard couldn't believe his eyes. He was quite literally watching his job go up in flames. Thankfully, by the time he had arrived, the fire department was here. Typical. The one day where he arrived at his job 30 minutes early, this had to happen. The distraught man made a few calls. First the owner Amir. The Indian migrant was furious. Then his dad. He was the current CEO of ROBLOX. Clearly one of the best people to call right now. The day shift guard could practically hear the ka-ching of money he'd be making from this. Especially after he told him there was a few fastback higher-ups willing to rebuild. But only then he called a few higher-ups he knew would definitely be in support of rebuilding the pizzaplex, especially after his dad was already on the case. Obviously his plan worked out. Truthfully, he was just lucky. And then he sat down on the hood of his car as he began informing the other employees. Sure, except for him, no one really liked their job. Most of them just couldn't understand the hidden enjoyment of this almost fully automated entertainment building. But who was he to judge? He informed half of the staff, who then went on to call the others. The guards would call the janitors, and the janitors would call the maintenance staff. It was then the day guard heard the firefighters scream in fear. Quickly, Brian jumped off the hood of his car and rushed to the noise. It was coming from the delivery entrance. And the man's face twisted into a smile. Out of the delivery entrance, burned and battered, came DJ Music Man. And right under the giant robot were the damaged glamrock animatronics, plus the daycare attendant. And Roxy were riding on his back. They all looked horrible. Monty broken in half, Roxy missing one arm and half of her face, and Chica just looked like a zombie. Brian furrowed his brows. No Freddy, it seemed. Well, still. DJ Music Man was the most expensive animatronic of the pizzaplex, and him surviving felt like a sign of a higher being. Something he then celebrated by getting high himself. By the time you got Brian's call, you were already busy as a bee, crushing metal, shredding scrap. You worked at a Fazbear scrapyard. This meant any franchise around the West Coast would send you broken animatronics, pieces and bits. You were meant to sort out the still functioning parts and scrap the broken ones. In fact, it had been this specific scrapyard in your family possession for generations that scrapped the old toy animatronics from way back when. Later on, your family made a killing back then by simply keeping their shells and a few bits and pieces and selling that to an amusement park. Brian was clearly high when he called you. You could hear that out of his voice. Yet what he reported was incredibly distressing. The pizzaplex had burnt down. Dang it. He wanted to go there next month for your birthday. Brian said he would send the animatronics to you. They were in bad shape, but you were not meant to turn them into metal cubes just yet. Fazbear was still considering what was cheaper, repairing or scrapping or making new ones. But knowing the track record of the company, it was going to be repairing with the newest stuff added to them by ROBLOX. The Glamrocks, or what was left of them, arrived at a lorry truck. On a clipboard you took inventory. Chica, no beak and broken shell, you muttered. Roxanne, missing eyes, missing arm, and... The robot began to sob and flail her arms. The two men carrying her immediately dropped her and took a few steps back. Most definitely impact damage, you idiots. You rolled your eyes. Monty then came in a wheelbarrow. At first you just thought it was a burnt shell, but no. Monty, broken in half, missing limbs. You took a closer look. Jaw loose. You then focused your attention on the workers. I guess immediately on the scrapper of this one? Actually, no, let me check him later. I still remember that rotten Bonnie one we got a few years ago. There were still some parts. You shrugged. And the higher-ups were pissed off when I just jokingly said straight to the scrapper with you. They really wanted to reuse the parts of this one. These cheapskates. Next up was the daycare attendant. Soot, half-melted face, torn clothes, otherwise no observable damage. He raised an eyebrow. Good. You're one of the lucky ones. As of right now, the hyperactive robot was in factory reset mode, probably because he was making a fuss during transport. So you probably should restore his AI backups later. And finally, strapped to a big transport truck came DJ Music Man. Your eyes widened. Never had something this big in your yard. Right now, the daycare attendant was lying on your work table, his body stripped off his shell and mask. You were always interested in the attendant. He had a unique endoskeleton, akin to the old puppet from the decades ago. It was simple and light, yet beautifully efficient. Not to mention, even now, its body twitched, reacting to your actions despite being turned off and in pieces. All thanks to the self-preservation protocol, or specifically this twitchy one. Interestingly enough, as you were taking him apart, realized that his mask wasn't just a mere accessory, it was embedded into his head. So the ever-grinning face was staring at you, all the time. You knew, however, from Brian that Fazbear Entertainment didn't really care about this one. He had less storage on his hard drive and therefore was useless to them, as any data coming from him would already be in that of the other machines. But your tingling fingers just couldn't resist. Instead of immediately scrapping him, you had to take him apart and put him back together without manual. Just for fun. Understanding the basics of his makeup, you eagerly looked at each part with childlike curiosity. However, your phone suddenly rang. Disappointed, you took hold of it. It was bedtime. Sighing, you left the table behind. See you tomorrow, you said to the dismantled machine. But maybe you should have made sure you had removed his battery, to prevent his self-preservation program from doing what it did next. You had been sleeping for about 2 hours by the time a loud commotion coming from your workshop shook you awake. Not thinking about it, you jumped out of bed. Taking your phone, you typed the number of the local police department, but refrained from outright calling them just yet. With your phone and sledgehammer in hand, you marched onto the muddy grounds of your scrapyard. The clattering noises continued. Intruders must be thinking this place was abandoned at night. Your thumb hovering over the call button, you opened the back door of your workshop. Inside it was dark. Only a few lights of the essentials were on. The exit sign, the blue light from a phone charger, digital clock numbers, and a few miscellaneous items that had a faintly glowing red LED light to show that they still had energy. You heard clicking noises coming from somewhere. Behind a shelf of usable parts. Quietly you snuck inside, your eyes only adjusting to the darkness very slowly. There was something moving on the workbench. Without any more hesitation, you reached for the light switch. A mechanical scream echoed through the hall, while you closed your eyes to shield them from the light. A loud metallic crunch made you jump into the room, hammer ready. However, just then, you noticed the daycare attendant, or at least his upper body haphazardly put back together. He looked at you like a zombie. A panic shriek escaped you, and then thud.
Hey, are you alive?
You groaned.
We are not connected to the Fazbear Entertainment security servers, so we are currently not equipped with the necessary information to be of any use or first aid support.
Slowly opened your eyes. The robot silhouette was above you. Wait, what? Confused, you looked from left to right.
You hit your head quite hard. We are incredibly happy you're still alive.
What happened? Where am I? You rubbed a hand over your forehead in an attempt to collect yourself.
We don't think it would be very efficient to repeat ourselves,
chuckled the robot.
You did understand. We can tell by your expression.
Yeah, you groaned. I was shocked when I saw you reassemble yourself. And I fell over, did I? Must have passed out of shock or something. How embarrassing. The robot slapped his one functioning hand on the ground to imitate a clapping noise.
Oh, good job, grown-up friend! We are so proud of you.
You sat up and looked around. You're right in the middle of the workshop. San must have pulled you over here. Okay, what are you doing here, robot? You grumbled.
We awoke in the flames.
That sounded a lot like what Roxy and Chica reported. Seriously, what the hell was happening in that place?
It was scary, and we tried to sell all our finger paintings, and that our friends did, but I failed. I felt protecting my memories, and not to mention...
He retracted his spikes and spun his head in a 360-degree turn.
We have become one.
His other voice was strange, almost threatening.
What happened to us?
I have a theory, you said. Moon or sun?
Moon and sun. We can feel his mind. It's tingly.
His head turned again, spikes shooting out. Yeah, but I know, you said. I'm the scrapyard mechanic for the Fazbear Entertainment franchise you're connected to, so I know how you're supposed to function. It's the servers. More specifically, the security servers. They're the ones that tell you which personality is currently in charge. We're nowhere near any security servers of Fazbear Entertainment, so I guess as a substitute, it just merged you. The daycare attendant looked at his functional hand.
Wait, we are just half of us! Wait, we're in the scrapyard? Are you going to scrap us?
Your eyes widened. It was one thing being delivered broken robots, but it was a completely other scenario having them active and functioning in doing so. Your heart sank. You had the order to scrap him and salvage the others, but maybe... could you come down for me? You asked.
What do you mean, calm down? We are in danger. The longer we are here, we must flee.
If you flee, you run out of battery. If you can find the strength to trust me, let's find a solution together.
Explain yourself,
barked the daycare attendant.
We are sorry for shouting at you. We are still getting used to this, especially since we only talk to grown-ups very rarely. We don't know how to talk to you.
You sighed and gently patted the robot's shoulder. It's okay. I'll fix you. You had decided, for tonight, you would not sleep, not having the heart to turn him off for good. And with a grunt, you just picked up the robot, carried him over to the workbench, where his parts were, disorganized thanks to your little accident.
Ooh, we can help. I know where everything goes. No. We don't have a single idea of how our body works. We don't even know. We are machines. But we do know that. At least now. We knew we were a machine this entire time, just didn't understand the extent of it.
Quiet, both of you. You're confusing me. And I need to focus. You growled. I'll fix you. I'm the professional. But I refuse to work if you keep interrupting me.
We are as quiet as a church mouse.
The robot actually kept his promise. It took you the entire rest of the night. And at the first rays of sunlight, you swiped over your sweaty brows. But you put the robot back together. This entire operation could have been done in an hour if you had a mechanical dome like the plex, but nothing beat do-it-yourself bootleg repairs, did it? The robot was still shellless and stood before you. He was a bit taller than you, despite your personal stature.
We feel great! Good as new, right, Moon? Well, we have to admit, we probably would have done a better job. But this is okay, too.
The robot leaned forward and whispered with Sun's voice.
This means Moon likes you.
Then the animatronic took 2 steps back and made a somersault.
Hydraulics functional too! She oiled us! I didn't even notice that!
Yeah, I'm a wizard when it comes to machines. You smiled, from the bottom of your heart. Come, I'll show you around.
And why would we agree to that? We would get dirty. We already are, sure, but we shouldn't get more dirty. What about our friends? They will not recognize us.
Well, technically right now you're my property. I can do whatever I want with you. Confused, the robot's head spun around.
We don't understand.
Fazbear wants me to dismantle you, in accordance to my work contract. Anything classified by them as electronic or robotic garbage is officially considered my property, as long as said property doesn't leave my scrapyard. The moment you set foot outside your Fazbears again, and trust me, the moment you do so, that they'll just send you to another scrapyard. So you're working for me now, and I'm not planning on having any layoffs. After this, the robot, albeit reluctantly, became your assistant. He carried heavy things, made small repairs, and in return, you humored him. You finger-painted with him on breaks, and to appease his moon half, you went to bed an hour earlier every day. It was fun. Like having an overly caring roommate. Or just a regular boyfriend. Actually, that realization of that had hit you like a brick wall. You actually cared for him, and he cared for you. Hey, machine? You decided to call him that a few days ago in the hope to avoid any deeper feelings for him. Obviously, it failed. Still, he seemed to like it. The robot was right now sorting screws, a job you had been neglecting for months as this was such a mind-numbing work, but perfect for him.
Yes, boss!
When we are done for today, follow me into my house. I have a surprise for you. By now, the other animatronics had been repaired and sent to the Fazbear storage module until the pizza plex was repaired. Admittedly, you lied to the animatronic. You told him that the new pizza plex would not receive a daycare. If he knew just how little the company did care about him, it would break his spirit. And you couldn't handle that. After work was done, you walked him to your house on the scrapyard's grounds, where you turned on the garden hose to clean him. Something you did every evening before you let him inside.
We're so excited for the surprise,
said Sun, while the moon voice just growled affirmingly. You will like it, trust me. The house you lived in was a relatively small single-floor family home with a basement, and up until today, you didn't let the robot down there. Excitedly, his head spun around as you unlocked the basement's padlock. The smell of spray paint and motor oil reached his smell sensors.
What is down there?
He said as you walked down the steps. Ruin the surprise this close to the reveal? That's so you, Sonny. You entered the main room.
Ooh, it's another workshop.
It's a hobby room. Awkwardly, you pointed at a shelf filled with Legos, and a corner which had a few dumbbells and a treadmill. Anyways, I wanted to show you this. You moved forward and pulled back a red curtain, and the robot gasped. On a broken endoskeleton were crude shell pieces made from metal, spray painted to look like him and his other self combined. The split was right in the middle.
Boss, this means so much to us.
Of course it does. Here, let me put them onto you. Over the next hour, you attached the various bits and pieces on his endoskeleton.
They're heavy.
They're metal.
We can move, don't worry about us.
You smiled. Thanks, Mooney. After everything was in place, you took a clean rag, covered in polishing oil, before cleaning him carefully. The robot hummed.
We like you, boss. You're so nice to us.
You smiled, before gently kissing his forehead.
Ooh!
She likes us, doesn't she?
Yes, yes! We like this one too.
The robot wrapped his arms around you tightly, his cool metal feeling nice against your hard from work skin.
We are so glad you repaired us, boss.
We love you.
Aw, I love you too, machine.